The three most important words that you could ever tell someone are, I see you. It's because when you tell someone you see them, it's like you're acknowledging their existence. You are acknowledging their fortitude. And that's what Sigmon Taylor does. They see you. You know, for a while, photography kind of fell into this lull. And, you know, because technology evolves, right? So it was almost like anybody could do it. Anyone could take a picture and put filters on and do some cool little technological thing, but there was life that was lost in that process. When you think back to how photography was done, not taking pictures, but photography, how it was created, it's an art form. That's who they are. They are artists. It's like when you go to a museum and you see a Rembrandt, and it's you can feel the emotion of the person. You can feel their soul. The lighting just dances across their eyes, and their eyes tunnel down to the soul. That's what you get when you come. You get a relationship. It's not just about we're gonna come at this time and we show up and everybody's in their places on their marks and snap, we're done. It's about what have you been through that has gotten you to you? And that's what we want. We want your you. And it's not just about who you look like, right? Identity is more than that. Portrait is more than that. It's more than what I look like, but it's about who I am. It's my beauty, not just my image. It's not my reflection, right? This is the cool part. Think about it like this. Out of all the 8 billion people on the planet, you are the only person who cannot look at you. Everything you see is a picture or reflection, some mirror image. You're the only person that can't look directly at you until you come to Sigmon Taylor Photography. They do more than take your picture. They allow us to actually see ourselves.
Thank you. We met Clayton a few years ago. We were supporting the same nonprofit, and we went to a dinner where they were celebrating the executive director who had just finished her 40th year of service. And he wrote this beautiful piece for her, and Michael and I were like, oh my gosh, we gotta talk to him, we gotta talk to him. And so we called Clayton and we asked him if he would do a little something for us. We had a big speaking engagement coming up and we wanted to kind of wow people. And I was, you know, for those of you who know me, you're gonna get to know me, but for those of you who do know me, you know I'm very type A, very controlling. I like to know what's going on, I like a plan. So I wanted to see a script. I wanted to know what this guy was gonna say. We didn't know him. We talked to him briefly on the phone, Michael did. He looked at our Instagram, he looked at our website, and then he was coming in to record. We flew Michael's son in to film it. And the whole time I'm like, when am I gonna see the script? When am I gonna see the script? And Michael's like, he's a pro, let him do what he's gonna do. And I'm like, this is gonna go really bad. So anyway, it was a Saturday morning, he walked in. Nathaniel, Michael's son, said, you know what, let's just do a dry run real quick. Let's just make sure the lights are on, the mics are set at the right levels. And that was that take, one time. So he finished, we started crying. It was really cool. And if you want to watch it again, it's on our website. But I love 2 things about it. I love, number one, that our branding is on point enough that he could talk to us for a very short time, look at our socials, look at our website, and get what we were about. Right? That's always a good thing. But then secondly, I love that, hold on, my remote's not working. And secondly, I love that he gets what we do. Portrait photography is so important, and he got that from us, and so that makes me really happy. Okay, hold on. Here we go. This is my husband, Michael Taylor, and our two dogs, Lucy and Muppet. We own a portrait studio in Williamsburg, Virginia, and we specialize in family and children's portraits. This is our full-time gig. We've got one income, and it's from this studio. So there's no side hustles, there's no family money in the mix, and this is what we spend our life doing. We've dedicated our life to portraits. We have a studio in Williamsburg, Virginia, and yes, I know that the space thing in New York is quite different than what we have in Virginia, but we are very fortunate enough to have about 1,800 square feet. It's one big room. That front area that you see here is actually where we do the shoots. We're by appointment, so I can make that a gallery when we're not shooting, and then when we are photographing, that's actually our camera room. We've been known for 23 years for doing this kind of work. Location, end of the day, one session a day, beautiful backlighting, family portraits, telling stories, multi-gen. This is what Sigmon Taylor has been known for. We do a lot around our area, and families have called us for these portraits for years and years. So we obviously believe in the power of a portrait. We know that children who have family portraits hanging in their homes feel better about themselves. They feel safer, they feel more secure, they feel a greater sense of permanence. We know that. There has been research done on this. We know, sorry guys. Man, I was just getting into my groove. Here we go. Okay. We know that when we display portraits of those children, it shows them that we're proud of them. We know that when we have beautiful family portraits, we can change the way not only children feel about themselves, but the way moms feel about themselves, the way dads recognize their family units. So all of these things are critical and can only happen with family portraits. Yet, most portrait photographers cannot make a sustainable living. They are not making a sustainable living. The average portrait photographer right now is making $31,000 a year. $31,000 a year. I can't live on that in Virginia, so I know y'all can't live on that in New York. So today what I want to do is talk to you a little bit about what we need to do as portrait photographers to change not only our income, but the world around us. So number one, if people can't tell the difference between what you do and what someone else does, guess what? They're going to compare you on price, right? If I'm doing the very same thing that you're doing in their mind, who are they going to go with? The cheaper person, right? So that recipe doesn't work. What happens is it becomes a circle to the bottom, a race to the bottom, circling around the drain. So 5 years ago, actually 5 years ago this week, so it's really cool to be here in New York with B&H and Sony. It's like, pinch me, I can't believe this is happening. 5 years ago this week, we launched a new line called Black Label. And what I wanted to do was create a portrait line that was so different than anything that our clients in our marketplace had seen someplace else. Because what was happening was, in our marketplace, an outdoor portrait was an outdoor portrait was an outdoor portrait. And by that, what I mean is we would go to an auction or a display or charitable something, and people would walk by, and we know that our outdoor portraits are better than other people's outdoor portraits, right? We know that posing moms is our superpower. But what was happening is they would look, and I would watch, and there was nothing stopping them. Because in their mind, we were all the same. So I thought, okay, something's got to give. We've got to come out with something that's so different that people will have to have it because they can't compare it to anything else. So this is what we came up with. And I think if we could turn those lights off once more. you. So we developed a line of studio portraits that was so unique and so different. I wanted something that was more dramatic, more cinematic in its lighting. I wanted these soft expressions. I mean, look at these boys. Look at that little guy. He just wants to be like his big brothers, but he's got, evidently there's a trainer sword. Does anybody know this? Like in fencing, you've got real swords and like trainer swords, and so his has like the little plastic piece at the end of it. It's so cute. And so people started to call and ask for this by name because we had done a really, really good job of this whole product launch. See, as photographers, we get really excited when we shoot something new, right? And the first thing we do is share it on social, right? And then we go about our day-to-day and we work for another couple weeks or a month or so, and then we have another cool shot. We post our regular stuff, and then we have another cool shot, and what do? Share it on social. So the problem with that is you're not sending a consistent message. Think about a fashion show where 1 month they launch the skirt, a month later they show you the dress in that same collection, right? It's not consistent messaging. So if you come to the marketplace with a complete product built, you will make a much greater impression and have a much greater chance of success. So what I did with Black Label was I actually shot one session every week for 12 weeks, and because I'm a total sadist, I did it at Christmas time. I did it over fourth quarter, and I didn't show any of the images until the first week of February when I launched it with this brand mark, Black Label. I had enough images that could keep me posting only that on social media for quite some time, and within 2 weeks, people were calling the studio and asking for Black Label by name, and that's like awesome. That shows that you did it, right? So I'm a big believer in naming whatever you're doing, whether it's just a small product line or a specific product. I'm a big believer in naming it because people need to know what to ask for. If I didn't have a name for this, people would be like, I don't know, like that dark, it's kind of like, you know, dark. like what would they ask for? So a couple more examples of this. So when you offer something that people can't get anyplace else, guess what happens? You can set the price. Okay, you guys have to be a little bit more excited about that. I mean, honestly, think about that. You can't go into, if you want a Mercedes, you have to go into the Mercedes dealership to buy the Mercedes, right? You can't go into, I don't know, pick another dealership, because whatever dealership I say, like whatever brand I say, I'm going to get skewered. Somebody's going to say, well, I drive that, or whatever. Do what? A Beamer. Something with a lower price point. The point is, Chrysler, is that what you said? Okay, the point is you're not going to go into a Chrysler dealership and say, well, I want a Mercedes. They don't sell it. Likewise, you will not go into a Mercedes dealership and say, I want this, but I only want to pay the price of a Chrysler. So that's the power of offering something so different and so unique that you can set the price because people have to have it, right? Can I get an amen? Is anybody awake? Are we doing okay? I'm a little thrown. I gotta be honest. I'm gonna take a minute. I'm a little thrown because my remote's not working and I'm a pacer. I like to make eye contact, so I feel tethered here a little bit. So just, well, that and let's be honest too, adrenaline and caffeine, what could go wrong? Okay. Thank you for laughing, the two of you that just laughed. But it's not just enough to have the work be different. Your entire product needs to be investment worthy. Well, what does that mean? Investment worthiness comes from a lot of different things. It comes from the way they feel about your brand. Your brand is then made up of your client experience, your work, the art, and the product that you're offering. A friend of mine in Kentucky says this all the time, and I heard it the first time 20 years ago, and it stuck with me. And he says, you know, Monica, we don't sell the art. We sell the result of the art. We sell the way people feel when they look at that art every day hanging in their home. And that's profound to me. We sell the result of the art. Adrenaline, caffeine, just give me a second. Your brand is the way that people feel when they interact with you and your work. Oh, I forgot, sorry. So for me, this boils down to two things that I want to talk about for you guys today that I feel like you can leave here and really think about implementing. Because I'm all about, like, you guys are spending an hour here with me. Thank you so much. And I want you to be able to leave and go do something. So I want to concentrate on two things: processes and confidence. Processes are what allow your business to become a separate entity than you. As solopreneurs, we own the business. We all know we set the price, we set the policies, right? And so when you're sitting across the table from somebody and they start to like, well, is that the best you can do? Does anybody feel like a little weird when that happens? Because you know, technically, it's not the best you could do. You could change it if you wanted. Or if somebody says, well, I need a Saturday session, we don't happen to work on the weekend, I used to feel a little weird because I'd be like, well, I could work on a Saturday, but I'm telling them we're closed on a Saturday. So it's just this weird thing because you feel like they're seeing right through you because you're the one that set the rules. So when you have a standard, when your business has protocols and systems in place, then your studio becomes its own entity. And then it's like, it's not me saying no to you, it's this is the studio and this is how the process works. Does that make sense? This will help you so much because now it's not personal. It's not me saying, I love your kids, but not enough to be with them on a Saturday. It's about that's not how our studio works. So I love this exercise. This is, I studied this for a long time, and this is the typical scenario when somebody calls a photographer. So there's the initial phone call at the beginning, and then, or an email, right? That could come from your website. And then, how many of you guys do a design consultation in person for your portrait clients? Look around, everybody. 3 of you, 4 of you, I think 80% of you are my students, so good job. Hey, Jen. Many of you will not do a design session in person. So then, in fact, the first time that you're meeting them is at the session. So what kind of a relationship have we built so far? Nothing, right? So then, how many of you guys sell your portraits in person? Good, 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 good. Many of you will then do what? Put the proofs online. So I do have to take a second here because I feel really, really passionate about this. When you put your proofs online, first of all, you're leaving about 90% of the sale on the table. It's a big number, 90%. Because what you're doing is several things. Number one, you're not doing your job. They're hiring us as the expert. So it's our job. They came to us for a family portrait. It's my job to jump in here and say, this is what I recommend. When you put something online and let them look at it and make their decisions, they don't know how it works. They don't know that they can be retouched. And then they're buying by committee, right? Because all their little girlfriends are looking, by the way, they're viewing them on this, right? And then they're like, oh my God, but your hair, why didn't she fix your hair? We know we can fix the hair. We know we can do all those things. But when you let your proofs out there online, you're just letting people buy by committee. It's groupthink, and groupthink never works. So most of you are not selling in line. Then we do a separate framing appointment, which is in person. And then the delivery and pickup, which now a lot of you guys just drop ship, right? So this is the typical scenario. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, well, typically then, a photographer is meeting the client maybe once at the session. But then you guys are like putting your hand out and asking for money. And then you want a lot of money, and then you don't understand why people won't pay those prices, because there's no relationship there. There's no history, there's no expertise. So I know you can't read it, I already know. But the point of this is to show you all the steps that we have in our studio. So we laid them all out. We want you to enter the world of Sigmon Taylor before you even make the first inquiry. We do that with content, with our website, with all the things out there so that when you make that first email or phone call, you kind of already know a little bit about who we are and our culture. We have the inquiry. Our design consultations are always done in person, non-negotiable, even if you've been to us before. Then we have session prep, the session itself, the selection appointment, again, always in person, non-negotiable. We have a framing appointment, they'll come back in. Then they can either pick up their finished portraits at the studio or over a certain size we'll install. We do social media delivery and then ongoing communication, lather, rinse, repeat. It's a lot. But guess what? When people spend a lot of money, it's usually a longer process, right? So then, because again, remember type A controlling all the things, so then we laid out like every email script, every phone script, every piece of collateral, everything that we owned, and laid it out in those columns, so then this becomes our blueprint. You can take a picture of it. You won't be able to read it, but if you message me, I can help you. So basically, these are all the things that either have to happen in each step, or that I have to communicate, or the information that I have to get from the client in order for this whole transaction to be successful. So processes are what allows us to create a plan and then communicate it effectively. So our design sessions are the times that we talk about where we're doing this and what we're wearing, but then further than that, what we talk about is what are we doing with the art. I don't know about you, but I don't like to shoot on spec. I don't want to like go out and shoot a bunch of images and hope that somebody's buying something. I like to, before I even pick up the camera, know what I'm making today. Wouldn't that be amazing? Who would like that? Who would like to know how much money you're going to make before each session? You can do that. You can do that with this kind of program, with having that sit-down conversation, with guiding your client, because here's the thing. Their previous experience has not been anything like the experience they're going to have with you. Their previous experience has been meeting their photographer for the first time in a park, bringing their own couch for the field, right? Like they don't know that there's an expert out there that can help them, that's going to guide them and direct them. And likewise with your selection appointment, we get all of that information up front, so we know where the portrait's hanging. We know if they're doing a coffee table book. We're shooting specifically for certain products, and so we know what we're making before we go in every single time. I mean, that's going to be the minimum that we're going to sell. So it's awesome. And then what happens is when they come in for that selection appointment, it's just populating the order. We're just picking our favorites. Wouldn't that be fun? It would change the way you shoot, right? You'd be more creative, you'd be freer. Like if you say to me, I don't want the coffee table book, I just want the one for over the fireplace, then I'm going to say, okay, that's what I'm going to concentrate on with your 3-year-old. But if you say to me, I want a coffee table book, then I'm going to have to shoot more variety. I'm going to be maybe a little less particular about the posing because I've got a run and gun. Wouldn't that be nice to know before you pick up your camera? And then when it goes back to the selection appointment, again, we're the experts. When you guys put your proofs online, what you're doing is the equivalent of having a landscaper pull up to your house with a flatbed, like an 18-wheeler flatbed with bushes and trees and plants and saying, what do you want and where do you want it? Right? You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know that those flowers have to go under that tree by the corner of your house or this or that or the other. You take this one out and then this one doesn't work. That's not your job. But that's what they're hiring you for. They may not know it because they've never experienced it before, but that's your job to bring them along the journey. Okay, so that's processes. Everybody good with processes? We'll have time for questions at the end. So really, I don't know why I asked that because you're going to have to wait. Confidence. I think Michelle said this earlier. It is time to level up. You are the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Think about that. Go through the 5 people you spend the most time with. Are they lifting you up? Are they challenging you? Or are they like, we had friends very recently who own their own business and we were having some success and they weren't. And every time we would tell them something that was really good that happened to us, he would kind of say, must be nice. And it got to the point that we weren't sharing our good news because we didn't want him to feel bad. And that's when Michael and I kind of looked at each other and said, okay, wait a minute, we need to reevaluate. We can't dumb ourselves down. We need to spend time with people who are going to be like cheering us on and then saying, but you know, the next step is, like, let's take it to the next level. So it's super, super important to think about who you're associating with and where you're spending your time. Value must exceed price. Does anybody get nervous in a sales appointment, for those of you who are doing this in person? Thank you for being honest. If you are charging this, but you're giving a product that's like this, you're gonna feel a little squirrely in the sales appointment. So, for example, we have a great lab, they make a great album, we've used it for years, and I charged this, and I just started to feel like it wasn't the best that I could offer. And so when I was giving them a price, I just felt like a little weird. And clients are like dogs, they will smell fear. They will smell your nerves, they'll smell like they seek it out. And so when I ditched that company and went to like this company, which is a lot more expensive, then I feel great about the price I'm asking for that album. Because I know there's physically not a better product that I can give them. So now I feel great. Now I have no apologies for what I charge because I know I'm giving them the very best thing I can. Doesn't that make sense? How am I doing on time? So we have to believe that what we do as portrait photographers matters. We are constantly saying like, we're so nervous, we're so insecure, right? And I'm with you, I'm like using this as a we. And then we go like, do you like it, right? And when we hand over our images, we're like, do you like it? And then when they say yes, we're like, oh, okay, why don't I discount it for you? Like, let me give you a deal on it, I'm so glad you like it. Like, what are you guys talking about? We need to value what we do. If we don't value it, why will they value it? You teach your clients how to treat you. You teach your clients how to treat your art. If you don't respect your art and what you're creating in your time, how are they supposed to do that? So charge what you're worth. Charge well. What you do is valuable and should be priced accordingly. That being said, you've got to deliver the goods. You can't put crap out there. You've got to be honing your craft. You've got to be building your skill set. You've got to be at events like this, educating yourself, learning, finding people who are doing things that you want to do and asking them questions, improving what you do. You've got to give, like I said, the best products that you can. I know when I deliver a wall portrait, there's nobody else, like you can't get a better print. I found the best lab in the country that will print it by hand, frame it, guaranteed, and I can hand that over, and I know it was worth every penny. It's worth every penny. So I have no qualms about what we're charging. My weapon of choice, the Sony Alpha cameras. First of all, it is important for me to mention to you that I used Sony long before I had a professional relationship with them because I think it's important that you understand that. If it weren't for Sony, there would be no Black Label portraits. I shot with another system for 20 years, and I had this idea for Black Label, and the other system couldn't handle that dark end detail. The skin tones weren't there, the details were getting blocked up, it wasn't printable work. And I was devastated. And so when I made the switch to Sony, I tried it out first, and I actually remember I have a black dog, I had a black chair, I had a dark gray wall, and I had a cloudy window light day, and I picked up my old camera and I shot it, put it down, picked up the Sony and shot it. The proof is in the file. Like I brought it into the Lightroom and looked at the files, and there was information there. And I could see every hair on my dog. Like it was crazy. It wasn't just big black blobs. So it's no exaggeration to say that without Sony, there would be no Black Label portraits and our studio would look much different than it does. I always get questions about the lenses we use. So you can take a picture of this, and I'm happy to help you if you want to message me on Instagram or anything about any of these specifically. The 24-70 is my workhorse in the studio. Adrenaline, caffeine, hang on, one more drink of water. I always used to shoot with the 70-200, but what I love about that 24-70, and we just upgraded to the version 2, is that I can quickly, especially photographing little kids, I can get in, I can get out, I shoot on a camera stand, so it makes it even easier. I can go full length to 3/4 to half length, I can go up, I can go down, and I'm not having to stop the flow and change lenses. So that's my workhorse in the camera room. 70-200 is what we use outdoors, And then the 85 and the 135 are quite possibly the most gorgeous portrait lenses I've ever shot with. So oftentimes what I'll do is turn the remotes off on the strobe and just pull the 85 or the 135 out and shoot with the modeling light. You don't need to retouch the files. It's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. Okay, let's talk about pricing for a quick second. We all know that when we have three of the same thing, the one that's the most expensive, we automatically perceive to be the best, right? We might not buy it, but we know it's the best. And what do we think about the one that's the lowest price? It's the worst, right? So you guys who are out there comparing or setting your prices based on what photographers around you are charging and then trying to beat them, guess what you're doing? You're telling your marketplace you're not as good. So you have to have those higher prices to just set the tone for people to understand, hey, I'm the best. You're gonna have an experience here like no other. So I did a quick program for APA last night, and somebody said, well, did you start out expensive? And I thought it was such a good question because the answer for me is yes. So I knew what everybody was charging, and so they were charging here, and I came out here. Because what did that tell the marketplace? They were like, who's this Monica? Who's she? Who's this new girl on the scene? She must be amazing. And to tell you how high the prices were, in 23 years, I really haven't adjusted them. Because what I didn't want to do was I didn't want to come out here and then in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years have to explain to my clients why my prices were going up, why I was now so much better than I was 24 months ago. So just keep that in mind, you guys. It's not a game. This is our livelihood. Okay, repeat after me. Making money is not a bad thing. Making money is not a bad thing. There's been this whole thing about starving artists and we're sellouts and all the like. I feel like portrait photographers are like bottom feeders in the industry for a lot of years. Everybody's like, oh, you do it for money or whatever. Making money is what enables us to continue to do this. Making money is what enables us to serve our communities, to give back philanthropically. If we don't make money, we can't continue to do what we do. You deserve to make a living creating portraits. I want you to say this to yourself every morning. I deserve to make a living creating portraits. Anybody awake? Are we good? I mean, I can't see you guys like at all because it's like hotter than the surface of the sun up here. And not only do you deserve to make a living, but you deserve to make a good living. Who believes this? Who believes what you do is important? I mean, let me hear it. Family portraits are important. You need to charge for what you do. You deserve to make a really good living creating these portraits because the future of family portraiture depends on it. If you guys can't make a living, let's go back to think about those slides at the beginning where the average professional photographer is making $31,000 a year. That model is not sustainable, right? So what does that mean? Everybody's going to go, their side hustle is going to become their main hustle, and the photography is going to go this way and that way and all the things. And then what happens? The future of portrait photography has changed forever. And remember, we know that family portraits on the walls of children's homes changes how they feel about themselves. It changes how they feel about their family. It gives them a better sense of security. Now more than ever, don't our kids need that? Families are falling apart. Schools are getting blown up. I mean, these kids need to know where they come from. They need to know who their people are. They need to be able to look at a portrait generations from now and say, those are my people, that's where I come from. And that's what all of you do. And if you don't think for a minute that that is so important, and that that's not changing lives, and that's not changing families, man, what did somebody say earlier? Don't come back tomorrow? You're in the wrong room? I mean, you guys, this is it. This is the real deal. So what I want for you is that you can make a living, that you can make a good living and enjoy what you do and hone your craft and service your clients. And what I want for all of us is that our generations to come have family portraits to look back on. Proper family portraits. Ones that have value and are coveted in the space in their home and then passed down to children on their wedding days. That's what I want for us. Anybody else want that? By the way, hold on. Let me go back to here. We have a podcast, The F-Stop's Here, which is awesome. So I would encourage you to check that out, and free resources that we're building out on the website above. And then I have, I did okay. I have about 15 minutes for Q&A. Oh, I love it. We've got some jump starters right here. So we're going to open it up for questions. Nothing's off the table. Are we giving them mics, or they're just going to? I can repeat it.
So our first question for, yes, sir.
So do you only shoot Sony native lenses?
Great question. Do I only shoot Sony native lenses? I do, because I feel like if you are using native glass, that's what is designed to work best with that camera. So to me, I equate it to like buying a super expensive printer and then buying generic ink. It'll work, but are you maximizing either piece of equipment? No. So now, let's talk about practicalities. You might not be able to just overturn your whole camera system and buy all native lenses at once. So prioritize, build a list. What's going to make you the most money the fastest? Buy that one first, and just start going there. It's unrealistic for many people to just be able to turn the whole system, right? So make that list and prioritize, but I do think it's critically important. Your camera and your gear is the most important thing you can invest in. I mean, that is what is making you the money. So somebody asked last night, where do you prioritize investing in your business? And for me, it's always the camera gear, because the technology is changing all the time. So you have to have that in your mindset and in your budget, that every 2 years you're buying new gear. You're upgrading. It's not a splurge. It's not indulgent. This is the tool with which you make the art, with which you make a living. Can the other ones work? Sure. The older, of course they work. But if we really want to be experts and make the best portraits that we can, that's how I feel. Did that answer?
Yeah.
He's got his arms crossed. He's like,
No.
a little skeptical.
I was the same way until I tried Sigma. And Sigma kind of sold me. That I feel like Sony gave second parties a better chance at creating great glass. Unlike Canon, I feel like Canon stopped. Now, you could only purchase Canon,
Right.
Canon native lenses.
Right.
I feel like Sony opened that up.
Sony did do a really good job by allowing you, kind of the gateway drug, get the body, right? And then start building with what you have. So it is nice that those bodies can be used with other lenses, for sure. So, but Sony native is always going to be better. You got it. Yep. I think you also had a question?
Is there an advantage to using medium format in your work?
Is there an advantage to using medium format in our work? So we don't use medium format. We did 20 years ago. I remember running around the park chasing 3-year-olds with a Mamiya 645. Anyone? Yeah? What were we thinking? All 3 lenses, primes, right? Carrying around. So what I have, and I miss it, but what I have found is, and again, this is not a commercial, this is actual, how I feel, my experience. What I have found is those files that I'm getting on the A7 R4, just recently upgraded to the R5, those files are as close to medium format as I've ever seen.
They're large.
They're large, they're beautiful, the skin tones are there, the dynamic range is there. So for me, I'm good. You had a question?
Can you talk a little bit about the shift from your on-location portraits to what you then created? Because you didn't wake up one morning and say, oh, here we are, we're in the studio now. Everybody happy with that?
Right. So 20 years we had been doing the location portraits, and they fed our family. I mean, that's what we built our business on. And we still do them, and we still love them. For me, I found that I was so creatively dead inside. I was like a husk. Like, do you know, like I could do those portraits in my sleep. We were going to the same places, different families, which I loved, but I just felt like I wasn't pushing myself, and that there was something else inside of me that I wasn't getting out. So Black Label had been kind of in my mind in one shape or another for several years, but timing is everything. And it took the right time for me to get brave enough to try it, and then shoot a little bit more of it, and study it, and shoot a little bit more of it, and then show a couple people who were in my circles, and show the clients and get some feedback. And then I decided, you know what, this really is what I want to make. So then, like, here's the deal. Do you want to build a business to accommodate your clients, or do you want to find the clients who will accommodate your business? And by business, I mean pricing, and I mean your art. And chances are, clients who love you are going to love the work that you tell them to love. So when I came out with Black Label, I was so enthusiastic about it. I was so passionate about it that they were all like, they had to have it because they knew it was the best. They knew it was my favorite. Does that make sense? But it's super important that paradigm shift of stop trying to change your pricing and your policies to accommodate your clients, and start finding the clients who will accommodate your pricing. You guys, can I get an amen for that? Right? Okay. Other questions?
I think
Pick
it
one.
was hard, and then I'll go back to you.
I just needed to find out if you've had people, whenever you tell them you know how to edit the images, that you've had clients that have gone too far with the editing, and if you did, what is it that you've done? If you understand what I'm saying.
Are you asking if the clients perceive that I've gone too far with
Well,
editing?
no. Okay, I'll give you an example. I did a photo shoot. A woman came to me and asked me to reduce her hips, to remove the fat out of the back of her stomach.
There's no such thing.
To actually do her neck, remove some fat underneath her arms.
We got it. We got it.
So have you ever had that?
So is the question like they've asked you that, and then what? Like if somebody asks me that, what do I do?
Yes.
Okay. So for us, because we're doing all of our consultations in person ahead of time, and this is a much longer relationship with them, I'm getting a really good sense of what the pain points are. So moms are usually pretty open, and they're going to tell me in advance things that they maybe want to camouflage or feel better about. And so I always say that posing moms is our superpower. And I really believe that because we have really studied and perfected our craft so that we know how to make moms look and feel great. So that being said, some people are they're just pickier on them, like they're pickier than others, they're hard on themselves, I get it. I never ever want a client to come in for a selection appointment and look at herself and not feel great about the way she looks. Our whole goal is when you come into our building, when you leave, you feel better than you did when you walked in. So if I need to do a little bit of that in post so that she doesn't feel uncomfortable or unhappy, then I will. And if she asks me to do something further, I will. That's her portrait. Yeah.
Okay, so we have another one here, and then
Okay.
Hey, hi. I just have a quick question about the tones that you showed on the pictures. It's mostly said by you or your clients that you want a specific, this style of lighting or a cinematic look on the portraits, like when you were shooting them, or it's mostly post-processing?
Are you asking if the clients have a say, like are they dictating that or am I just doing it?
Yes.
I'm just doing it.
Okay.
So remember when I said, like, I took those 12 weeks and I built the whole line and there was a consistency across those portraits so that when I came to the marketplace, it was a clean, identifiable, consistent look. So for that reason, we would not have a client that would come in and go, well, I really like that, but gosh, it looks really bad up there. I really like that, but could it be less desaturated? It looks too desaturated for me, da, da, da. If they were to say that, then I would say, well, probably we just need to do a regular studio portrait for you and not the specific line, because that's the look of this line. That's the art. That's the product that I've designed. For Black Label, yeah, 100%. But I can do something else for them. I can do a different studio portrait for them. But this is what I've designed. So if you want the Mercedes, you're not going to say, but you know what, can I get the cloth seats? Right?
What is the difference between...
You gotta wait for the microphone,
Hold on,
sorry,
I
because
think
there's all the
because there were
people
some
that
people
are
over here.
raising their hands. All right. It's just... all right, so...
Well, okay.
No, because people are raising their hands, I wanted to be fair to
Yes,
the people.
no, I thought they had raised their hands first.
Sorry, I was just jumping in on that exact statement. What is the difference between Black Label and your regular studio sessions then, and how do you differentiate them?
So Black Label is usually more formal in nature. The expressions are, because we think clients can tell, right? They can't. So I talk about expressions more, or before even the post-processing treatment or the coloring or the desaturate. I don't even talk about that. What they're identifying with is that emotion, with those expressions, that split second of vulnerability that I'm hoping I get in each of those images. And so that's what they're reacting to. So I will talk about expressions. I will talk about a little bit more formal. It's more dramatic. I'm always very clear that you're not going to give me the big happy smiles. I had a 6-year-old in last week, and she was new to me, and I was like, guess what? And she's like, what? It's like when you tell them you know Santa, they're like, what? And I go, so here at Miss Monica's, we don't smile. And she was like, what? I mean, she was like beside herself, and I'm like, no, we don't smile. We just do like nice, soft expressions. And she's like, this is the best place in the world. And I'm like, I know. So setting the expectation, is really, really important. And, but our regular studio work, you can smile all you want, and we'll light it differently. We won't use the same backgrounds. You're probably not going to be dressed in black tie for a regular studio session. So there's clear differences, and even our product is printed differently. Yeah. Who's next?
Okay, so pretty much, like as a photographer, I know consistency is key, right? So I would consider these like a moody kind of theme. Do you sell this preset? I know that might sound crazy.
Oh, do I sell a preset?
Yeah, like...
I don't. I have photographer friends that tell me I should, but
yeah, well,
I don't, yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. If you did that, do you feel like that would take away from this special product? Because now, like I know a preset's not easy because even when you have it, you still got to apply it to the photo, and some photos won't work well. You would have to...
Yeah, because Black Label really is more than just a preset. It's the mood, it's the posing, it's the expressions, it's the lighting. So even if I made a preset, and plus also, like, y'all don't want to be me. Y'all want to be you. Like, the cool thing is that you all walked into this room with everything you have, and now I just gave you everything that I could in 45 minutes. So now y'all are leaving even better than me. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? So, yeah. So I would say, like, use this work as a jumping off point. I think that's so important that we have influences, but I think we get into the danger zone when we just start mimicking, because not only is it like, not cool, but you'll get bored. Because I've done it. I've mimicked. And then in like a year, I've mastered it and I've made money at it, and I'm like, oh my God, I am so bored. This is not me. This is not in my soul. So use it as a jumping off point, but maybe you'll do it even better. Yeah.
So we have another question here.
Oh, hey.
Hey, Jen. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey, girl. Hey. Also, we do want to be you. I'm just throwing that out there. So you do consultations with all your clients, and you plan their session, and you plan their portraits, et cetera.
I'm very bossy.
But, hi. Oh, thank you. How often do you find that those clients that you shoot more than what was intended and that you upsell those clients after, like they're buying more, maybe they are adding on an album, etc. Do you find that happens a lot? Do you shoot accordingly? Do you shoot more than what you plan?
We really nail down in the design session for a number of reasons, like going back to I don't want to shoot on spec. My time is more valuable than that. I don't want it to feel squirrely in the selection appointment, like I got you in saying we're going to do this, but now I'm going to try and sell you the warranty and the tires and all the things, right? So I try and get it really dialed in, especially with little kids, because your client has to understand that that 3-year-old is going to last a finite amount of time. And so I need to understand what's the most important to you. Is it the fireplace portrait or is it the book? Because if it's a fireplace portrait, like I'm gonna focus on that and that's gonna be the priority. If we get some extra, great, but but if they say I want the book, I want the annual book, then I'm gonna shoot that much differently. When they start pulling out the list of, and then I'm gonna want grandma with the girl cousins, and then grandpa with the boy cousins, and then this and that and the other, and then I'll just say, okay, so stop, hold on. Grandma and the girl cousins, where are we putting it? And they'll just, well, what do you mean? I don't know, I just want it. And I'm like, okay, well you can want it all you want, but want it costs money, so let's talk about where it's gonna go. So we get that really, really dialed in. It's not to say that I never shoot some extra hoping for this or that, but we're pretty dialed in.
But do you often have them, do they often upsell and buy more because they fall in love with them?
Do they often upsell and buy more because they fall in love with them? Occasionally, but usually I've pre-sold. I've pre-sold the upsell. They've come in for a wall portrait, but by the time we're done with the design session, I've convinced them they now need to do an annual album compilation. So I kind of have upsold at the pre-sell. Pre-sold the upsell. That one. The one that makes more money. Yeah.
Two things. One, I do want to be you. And two, if you sat in on my session and you heard me mention my good friend Jen, who photographed me and my daughter, and is killing it in the pet portrait industry, right? Hi. Right here. You must talk to her. Anyway.
You had a question? You had a question?
Any other questions for me? Or do you guys just want to meet Jen out in the hall? Either one would be fine.
Hi. Who comes to that initial consultation if it's a family of 6?
So usually just mom. The husbands sometimes come, and when they do come, it's awesome because then I know I'm not going to have any objections at the end. But usually it's just the mom, and because she's the one that's going to make the decisions. Oftentimes after a design consultation, I'll go to their home also and measure walls with them. We have it's the standard for portrait photographers, but it's really state-of-the-art software where we can photograph a wall, we tape a sheet of paper to it, we bring it into our software. The software knows that that sheet of paper is 11 inches, you're nodding, you know, and then the software can scale it. So after we choose their favorite image, I can show it on their mantle at the appropriate size. What was the question?
You answered it.
I did?
Yes.
I could keep going if you want to remind me the question.
And then just to take that further, if they just want the family portrait, nothing else, how long is that session?
I always say the session depends, the length of the session depends on the youngest child.
Yep.
Or dad.
Okay.
Either one could be the variable there. So,
Thank
by
you.
the way, that did remind me, we were talking about dads and who comes to the design session. The selection appointment is a one-time deal. That is a one-time opportunity. How many of you have ever heard, well, I have to go home and think about it. Can I call you back? How many of your people have ever called you back? Like 0. It doesn't happen. So we're very clear from the get-go that you are going to have one time to make your selections and that any decision maker needs to be available for that appointment. So if and this is how I phrase it, if your husband is going to have any say-so as to which image you choose, where it's going to hang, or how much you're going to spend, we want them to be a part of it. And that's the order that I say that in. Isn't that good? If your husband's going to have any say-so as to which image you choose, where it's going to hang, or how much you're going to spend, we need him with us.
All right, so we have a last one here.
Okay. And I think after this, I'm going to be up in the Sony booth on the, are we on the 3rd floor? We're on the 2nd floor. Sony's on this floor. I'll be over at the thing. at the Sony table for more questions. In the crystal ballroom.
I'm assuming that at the planning meeting, you go over wardrobe and styling and all that kind of stuff. Some of the portraits showed beautiful gowns. How much do you have, or how much do you guide them in what they need to create those kind of images?
Super bossy, super type A. I need to see outfits 7 days in advance of a session or I will reschedule. At the same time, I'm very hands-on. So I will do Rent the Runway with them. I'm looking at links back and forth. We'll create a mood board that has links in the PDF that they can click on and shop. I've loaded up people's shopping carts for them. So super involved. I don't own a wardrobe at the studio for them to use. But I'm very involved in the shopping and procurement of said outfits.
Monica, I have one question for you.
Okay.
So first off, thank you so much for
Thank you.
giving us so much information. That's
Thank you. I do have to tell you, this is like a big honor for me.
Thank you.
Like a really big honor. Like B&H, like you guys do business with the vendors who are supporting our industry. In a time where everybody's pulling back, for these guys to come to the table with this kind of an event, I mean,
screw Amazon. So I have to
Screw
say.
Amazon.
Screw Amazon.
Yeah.
Come to be it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got one question for you before we wrap up. And you said your business is 23 years old. You've been shooting. You mentioned a Mamiya 645. So that's okay. So what if a client comes back to you 20 years ago and says, "I need pictures. You did portraits for whatever reason." How do you manage your archive, and do you offer that service?
So, first of all, I let it go to voicemail and I think about it before I call them back. Then I run to the storage unit to check like what's where before I call them back. So we have kept everything theoretically, in theory. That has been our goal. We don't deliberately delete or trash files. So when a client says to me, well, you're going to keep these, right? I say, well, the goal is to keep them. However, we're all going through digital storage for the first time. So 10 years ago, we all thought DVDs were the thing. And now they're all corrupted because we used the Sharpie when we weren't supposed to use the Sharpie, right? I mean, you know what I'm talking about. So then we all went to the hard drives. Well, now none of the cords work with our computers. So then we moved them all to the thing. So yes, clouds and all the things, but I'm very honest with our clients that we are not guaranteeing. Our goal is to keep them, but we're not guaranteeing.
They should probably buy extra. Right
They
at that
should
seat
totally buy. Yeah, we have grandmas. I tell grandma, by the way, last tip, until you meet me at the Sony table, every grandchild needs the portrait. Every grandchild needs a copy of that family portrait that they've done for Christmas. And they will write a note on the back of the portrait. In print. In print. Yeah. Oh, digital files is a whole other conversation. I'll be at the Sony in the crystal ballroom
Okay.
in a moment.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Monica.
you.
Thank you for the kind words about
Thank
B&H
you.
too. Appreciate it so much.